Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, and welcome to the Tune Into Sales podcast. I am super excited today because I met this gentleman not too long ago with an opportunity through a mutual friend that we both share, and discovered that this guy has a passion for podcasting. Matter of fact, when you learn this guy's background, you're going to be impressed. And we're going to talk about why podcasting is so important to you as a financial professional. And if you're not doing podcasting now, this is why maybe you need to consider it. But if you are doing podcasting, hopefully you're going to get some things out of today's podcast that'll make you thinking about things you could do to improve the quality of the message that you're delivering. So let me introduce you to my friend, Chris Carnes. Chris, thank you. Welcome to the show. Now, you've had a background with NBC. Would you mind, as we kick off, just kind of quickly sharing that background so folks know a little bit about your expertise in this area?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me, Dr. John. Basically, I started out right out of college. I went to the University of Florida. I studied broadcast operations, and I was hired directly out of the university at NBC in West Palm Beach, starting out as a camera operator with a 4-year degree, which is how the industry was run back then. You didn't start out and work your way all the way up. You started at the bottom. I worked in college on CBS Sports and many other, and I was also an audio engineer for the Dave Matthews Band for 2 summer tours. So I had a passion for audio, I had a passion for music, and I had a passion for broadcast. Starting out with NBC, starting at the bottom, running studio camera, I worked my way up to floor director. From floor director, worked into audio engineer. From audio engineer, went to master control operator, where I basically ran the switcher for on-air broadcasts for 8 hours a day. And I worked my way from there into operations manager, which I ran the whole operations unit, and then worked my way up to broadcast engineer, where I basically learned all the equipment that it took to run the broadcast on a daily basis, from studio to field to E&G trucks to satellites. And from there, worked my way into being the main broadcast engineer for Scripps Corporation, which owned about 35 television stations around the country. And I was called a fire jumper, where they bought a brand new station. I was sent in to basically figure out what their equipment was, how we made TV, and transform them into the way that we made television. So I got to see lots of different television stations around the country, from small markets like Montana to large markets like WPIX in New York City. And being able to be a part of large broadcasts were really pivotal in my understanding of like the changing of broadcast. And that leads us into podcast today. And in between, I left NBC and became VP of Operations and Engineering for NewsMax for 2 years, and helped develop their streaming channel. So it was a legacy media company which had a cable channel, and we built a streaming network to go alongside it, because they were going behind a paywall and had to deliver a free service, basically a news program. So we started out with 3 hours of live programming a day. And by the time I left, we had 16 hours of live programming a day. And one of the interesting things about that was we had 15 remote studios around the country. And that also leads into podcasting, because that's basically what we were building, was building remote in-home studios in our anchors' homes, and then bringing them back into our control rooms, where we had PZT cameras, where we could basically control all their equipment remotely. So basically we would design a setup where they would walk into their office like you're in right now, sit down, put on the microphone, and we had control of all the gear, and we were able to broadcast live.
You've had an opportunity to do some incredible studios. Who are some of the folks that the listeners may know that you've had an opportunity to help them create some incredible studios?
So locally, being in Florida, there's been a large growth of the conservative podcasters moving down to Florida. And one of my neighbors is actually Dan Bongino. And that was one of the big studios that I did. I built 3 separate studios for him, starting with his first studio in Palm City, Florida, which we both lived at that time in Palm City. And we met because our daughters were on the same gymnastics team. And he knew that I worked for NBC. And he came to me one day and he said, listen, I'm doing this podcast audio only. I want to do video. Can you help me do video? And we basically, at one of our daughter's gymnastics tournaments, began discussing the opportunities. And I helped him develop one of the largest live streaming podcasts until he became deputy director of the FBI and stepped back, and now is working for President Trump currently. But at that time, we went from 2 different homes that he lived in where we built home studios. And then he basically bought an old Burger King in downtown Stuart, did a full demo, rebuild, and a real studio. So he actually owns, it's called Silverlock Studios, and it's in Stuart, Florida currently. And that's where his wife is running it. He had to step back, but his wife is running their current operation. So that's one of the largest live streaming podcasts that was basically producing about $15 to $20 million a year in ad revenue, which is astronomical. And he was actually, just before he left, he was getting about 300,000 live streams, which put him at the top of the charts on a daily basis. And that's just live streaming. That's not all of his restreams, which then he takes his content and then was putting it on Rumble. And then you could watch it as you pleased, which is one of the really great things about podcasting is you can be live, or you could record your shows and then put them up on Spotify, Apple, and Google, and allow people to watch your content at their leisure, which is really, I believe, the power of podcasting is people being in their cars listening, and people being in the gym, and people utilizing the kind of content that they want to watch, when they want to watch, how they want to watch. That's the power of being able to record a solid podcast and then put it up on a platform that gives the audience the ability to watch when they want to watch it.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely the case, Chris. I was in Houston, Texas 2 weeks ago, and I do this podcast, and then I have a separate podcast I do that's a personal growth podcast. And I had an individual come up to me from Australia. I'd never met this person, and walked up and said, Dr. Terry, I'm so excited to meet you. We listen to your podcast every week in Sydney, and we can't wait for another episode to drop. And that to me was just like, I don't know who you are, but I love you. It was just one of those exciting moments that you don't realize the breadth that a podcast can take you. And that's really where I wanted to go in the next question is, how has podcasting really become an incredible medium for financial professionals to be able to not only engage their existing audience, but how does it help them to expand and reach more of their audience? And I think we touched on it a little bit.
Yeah, I think building trust is key in building your audience, especially in a sales-driven format like you have. Building trust over time, having content that reaches people, that is the niche that they're looking for. People are looking to improve their sales. They're gonna find your content, and that drives an audience. Especially, it deepens connections, because podcasting is like audio and video, but it deepens connections with your viewers and with new viewers that once they've established with you, then they reach out to other people, and then it can build your podcast and your brand. I really think branding is the most powerful tool when it comes to podcasting, and then building bond and trust. Trust is key. And that I think is one of the most powerful aspects of podcasting. It's a one-on-one conversation that builds loyalty, and loyalty is everything in sales. So if you can build loyalty and the one-on-one communication, there's some statistics that it's 4 to 5 times more likely to engage in advertising on podcasts than traditional advertising, whether it be television or because we're all bombarded with advertisings, and advertising works, otherwise people wouldn't do it. But this medium really builds bonds and trusts that that allows content to be shared with like-minded individuals. And that's the other thing. It's you can do niche, and niche is very powerful.
Absolutely.
I think people overlook the fact of niche advertising and niche content, because that's really what podcasting can bring you, which television and even radio now, it's more broad.
Right. Yeah. So, Chris, I want to pivot for somebody that maybe isn't yet doing a podcast and they're thinking about getting into this genre and saying, this is something I want to do. I'm going to kind of give you a multi-pronged question and then just let you take and run with it. Is it too late to get in? If you do decide to get in, what's the preferred format? Do you do solo where you're having conversation by yourself like a Paul Harvey or a Earl Nightingale of old? Do you do guests on the podcast? How long should you do your podcast? How frequently should you post your podcast? What are some of the basics that we need to think about if we're just getting started into this world?
All right. So there's no one size fits all in this kind of a question. But the most important thing is like, what are your goals? It is never too late. Now, there is a saturation at this moment where it seems that everyone has a podcast, but that's okay, because if you have a strong niche and you start building, I always tell people it's never too late to start this. And if you do, just start. Don't try to make it perfect out of the gate. An example is, Dan Bongino was in Maryland and basically made a podcast to nobody for 2.5 years, 2.5 to 3 years. He was making a show and it was to the air. Now, by doing so, you're refining your craft, you're refining your ability to present, you change your sets, you change your backgrounds, you upgrade. But you're learning as you're going along, and you're also building loyalty and you're building a brand. And that's where I always go back to brand is key. What is your brand? What do you want to bring to people? And what kind of conversations do you want to have? And that's what builds brand loyalty. Now, frequency is another question I get often. I believe in before you launch a podcast, to try to get 3 to 5 in the queue, because once you go up, having 3 to 5 shows so that people can run through your content immediately and have people listen is key. Just don't go up with one show. Now, how long each show is, now there's a science to this. There's a lot of studies that have been done on it. 20 to 40 minutes is basically the sweet spot. So think about it as in radio, where it was drive time. So a lot of people are listening to podcasts on their commutes. The average commute is 20 to 40 minutes. Now that's the sweet spot. So like, I believe being in that time frame is absolutely critical. You don't want a 5-minute podcast. Those are teasers. Now, teasers are fantastic. If you're, I like to shoot a podcast starting out half an hour to 45 minutes, max about an hour. Now, if you're going to put up teasers out of that, you edit down 3 to 5 minutes, and then you use those to put up on social. That's the power of social. And then multi-pronged branding is going on Facebook. Here's my show. Here's a 3 to 5 minute teaser that leads you back to your YouTube page or where you store your content. Now, YouTube is a good resource because it does have a monetization. So a lot of people will ask me, well, how do we make money on this thing? So you do inside ads, you can do product placement. There's lots of different tiers for monetizing, but at least if you're on YouTube, there is a shared monetization where they drop ads into your program. Those ads then can pay you back. So that's a nice way to monetize. But I'm going back, I think that 20 to 40 minutes is key.
What is the importance? And if we think about lighting, we think about microphones, we think about basic equipment, if somebody's just getting started, they're on a limited budget and they can't go build a beautiful studio like a Dan Bongino or a Sean Hannity or Morning Joe show that's done there in Florida and some of these big sets, if they can just do the bare minimum, where do you suggest they put their dollars first?
So the most important is audio. I always say audio excellence is your beginning start. So having a great microphone is key. A good set of headphones is key. And I recommend the Shure SM7B with a pop filter on top of it. It basically gives you solid sound. Sound is crucial. Always start there. Best practices, like your background right now is an office. That is very common for business professionals to use. A lot of people have home offices. If they don't have a home office, a lot of executives are building a small studio setup in their business offices. Mm-hmm. So, and if you're doing business type podcasting, an office is a great place to start. Now, I will tell you, when we were doing NewsMax, more of a television setup, super simple. 3 lights. You want a key, you want a fill, and you want a background. So basically your front, your side, and your back is lit. So lighting, first audio, second lighting. And we did eliminated backgrounds. So basically we would put an 85-inch monitor right behind where you're sitting right now. Mm-hmm. Nobody could see the desk. Desk was unimportant. Background was a large monitor, which we usually used a graphic. So whatever your business motif, your logo was placed behind you, and that basically builds brand. And keep it simple. So when you're first starting out, let's think of Charlie Rose. If we have some older members in the audience, he used an eliminated background, completely black curtain, table in front, him with a guest. That was all that was ever done with Charlie Rose. That is a very simple, clean, non-distracting background, basically, where your attention is given to the presenter and the guest. So your focus is on those 2 people. That's another angle to go with. I believe in keeping it simple, stupid, right out of the gate. Don't try to spend your money on sets and spend your money on things like that. Work on your content. Content is king. Mm-hmm. In all media platforms, whether it's print or whether it's broadcast or whether it's podcasting, it's what you're talking about that is key. What are you bringing to the table? Think about those situations first. But basic lighting and audio is primary for podcasting, because there's still a 70% saturation in podcasts where it's audio only. So your visuals don't even matter. Sound is everything. But I do believe that if you're going to do it, start with some basics of camera, because that is a value added. And you don't have to, people use their iPhones and people use ring lights to begin. And honestly, I've known people that start out with a closet. They have a closet set up where they could go in, eliminate sound, distraction, and everything else, and set up in a closet where you have a good microphone, decent lighting, and you can control sound. That's the other thing that I want to discuss is having sound barriers. There's acoustic foam, which is available, but in an office setup like yours, a rug on the ground and a couch right in front of you will eat up the extra sound in the room and then bring that richness and sound quality that you're looking for. So you don't have to go out of the gate, drop $5,000 on acoustic sound deadening equipment. Does it work? Yes, there is, but there's a lot of cheaper versions. I know people that have used those foam mattress covers, mm-hmm. which is a very low entry level, which basically does the same thing. It's shaped in an egg carton fashion, which is just like the sound acoustics. You can place those off to the side and they will eat up the extra reverb in the room, eliminating sound bounce back. And basically, and then you add a high quality microphone like the Shure on top of that, and it can control any kind of sound issues that you're having and gives that rich, deep audio feeling that also brings trust. It's really interesting. People will turn off bad audio right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
They won't sit and listen because it irritates them. And the last thing you want to do is irritate your customer.
Yeah, I've heard for years in the podcasting world, people will put up with bad video.
Yes.
They will not put up with bad audio. And I think what you said also is apropos. I find because I post a video and an audio version of my personal growth podcast. And as a result of that, I look at the metrics. I get more listens on the audio than I do on the video because people say, John, I listen to it when I'm at the gym working out. Like you said, I listen to it when I'm in my car going to and from work or, driving to an appointment, whatever it may be. But those that watch the video watch it because for them, it allows them to see me and connect with me. And they feel like we're having a conversation. And that's the power of podcasting, is that ability to reach not only your existing customers, but to have the opportunity to reach even more. Now, when it comes to channels, are there preferred channels, or is it just you put it out there to everywhere and let them find it? Do you have any guidance on that?
I'm a multi-platform believer. Like I said, I think YouTube is the search engine on YouTube currently is more popular than Google at this point. It's owned by the same company, but people search on YouTube. By being on YouTube, you can be found. And that, I think, is one of, if you're going to start anywhere, start on YouTube. Now, podcasting, you have brand loyalists who are Apple people, and they are inside the Apple architecture. So I believe you got to be there. Absolutely. Because people have the iPhone, they use the audio inside that apparatus. So I believe that's a mandatory place to be. Spotify is another one where the free services are amazing. There's free Spotify and there's also paid for it. Every service has a value added pay subscription where you don't get the advertising. But being on Apple and Spotify and the Google Play platform and YouTube are absolutely necessary. So put it everywhere. That's basically my answer, is to broadcast your show on every single platform to get the reach that you're looking for. That's how you build brand loyalty and get listenership. But honestly, the search aspect of YouTube is incredibly powerful.
So showing up where the people are at the end of the day. Yeah.
You gotta be where they're using the products.
Absolutely. Well, Chris, is there anything that we haven't covered about podcasting that you think would be mission critical for our audience to hear as we get close to wrapping this installment up?
Along with audio, the type of software recording stuff that you're using, there's free softwares like Audacity, and Zoom and GarageBand on the Mac platform. So you want to. It depends on what your PC is, what you're running your shows on. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing we probably didn't discuss, is having a good computer along with your audio, your lighting, is having a solid computer. Now, I'm a Mac person. I came from broadcast. In broadcast, all video is done with the Mac products. Now, Mac costs a little more. But the life expectancy that you get out of having a high quality Mac laptop or a computer version like the iMac or the Mac Studio is incredibly, compared to the old iMacs, you would be in about $2,500. You can get a Mac Studio for, $1,000 to $1,500, and it's got a great chip. It's got great speed and great recording capabilities. So that is something that I really recommend looking into. Now, PC also has really nice computers as well. I recommend a gaming style PC. If you're going to be getting into production, look for a gaming level because it has the higher end video cards and higher end processing, which that comes with the Mac. That's why I lean toward the Mac, but that's only because I came from broadcast and my entire career, I've been a Mac person. Sure. So people are either PC or they're Mac. So you have to find what you are comfortable with. But if you're going to go PC, I recommend looking at a gaming level PC just because of the processing power and extra graphic card features that they do come with if you're going to be getting into video. So I recommend looking at the long term rather than short term and getting a solid microphone, decent lighting. You don't have to spend crazy money on lighting. Like the LED lighting now is really good. Amazon, I mean, you search on Amazon, there's like really good stuff. I recommend B&H is another company that has really, really good broadcast gear, and you can get good lighting at reasonable prices and delivered right to your home.
Absolutely. And you can start where you are and build as you've talked about. One last question I want to make sure we touched on before we wrap up. What about a teleprompter?
So teleprompter, if you're going to have scripted questions, I honestly don't recommend that right out of the gate because I find that if you're new to this, it could be distracting. I think that having a sheet of paper in front of you with bullet questions is the best way to go about it and not being so scripted. Scripted, I don't think builds trust. This is a branding and a trust building, and you need to know what you're talking about, right? Like if you're going to do a show on sales, you better understand your topic and be able to talk off the cuff.
Absolutely.
Like you asking me about podcasting, this is what I've been doing. I've been doing broadcast my whole life. I do have bullet points in front of me, but I know what I'm talking about. And that's also key, practicing questions and understand where you're going before you get into your show. So that I would recommend way over a teleprompter. Teleprompter is great if you're fully scripted and you're doing more of a drama production or something to that scale where you're memorizing lines and you need to be able to say certain things. Now in television, yes, television was completely run off a prompter. I used to call the anchors professional readers. A lot of them didn't even write what they were reading, right? They would come in, they would do their news things, they would have their meetings, they would know what they were basically discussing. They had producers write everything for them. They would sit down and they would read off the teleprompter. And let me tell you, when the teleprompter went out, you discovered who was a real broadcaster and who was a professional reader, because the reels would come off the bus. So that's something about a prompter that I'm not the biggest fan of. We are like, I'm working with My Living Media, who we had met through. We are utilizing them occasionally. It depends on who our client is. And usually it's for our hosts to have a baseline of questions, especially in the video side where they're looking directly at the camera the whole time, and we can have the questions basically in front of them and allow them never to look down. So that's just more of a production side where what are you looking for and what do you need. Basic podcasting, I don't recommend them. I find them to be distracting, especially if you're not used to it.
Well, Chris, if somebody wants to connect with you and they want to ask more information, or maybe they'd like you to come in and build a custom studio for them, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
So my website is clearbroadcastintegrations.com. That is my go-to to get a hold of me. You can find me on Facebook and you can find me online.
Excellent. So website was Clear Broadcast Integrations with an S?
Integrations.com, yes.
Perfect. Very good. Well, Chris, I want to say thank you. It was a pleasure to get to meet you when we were together in Florida and have a chance to share some stories. You are a brilliant guy in what you do, and I very much appreciate you taking some time to be with us today. Any parting comments as we wrap up?
Go do it. So that's what I tell everybody. If you're thinking about this, just give it a shot and build brand loyalty. It is a powerful medium going forward in the future. I think that every business owner should consider it. And if you're not doing podcasting, think about webinars. It's also another genre that is similar to podcasting, where you can funnel clients in by doing simple Google advertising or meta advertising on Facebook, schedule something at 7 o'clock in the evening, have people join you so that you can share your products and services with them.
Absolutely. And 2 tips I'll share from personal experience. Your first time's never your best time. It's usually your worst. And it's that unspectacular preparation in going through and practicing what you're going to say again and again till you're comfortable with it can lead to a much more spectacular performance when the lights are on and you're in front of the screen. And with that, I want to say thanks to my friend Chris Carnes for being with us today. I'm Dr. John Terry, and on behalf of all of us here at the Tune Into Sales podcast, thanks for joining me. Have a great day.